Everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Christopher Hall Show. I'm excited to welcome to the program Dr. Christopher Hall. Dr. Hall, how are you? Thank you for your service. And how are things going?
Things are going very busy, particularly, these cases of COVID increasing. Again, very excited about the vaccines that are out. And we're working very hard to take care of patients, but I'm extremely excited about what we have today. Oh,
So introduce our guest.
no problem. Well, it's my honor and a great pleasure to introduce an individual from one of America's well-known and greatest singing families. An individual now who is pretty much taking the center spot and is coming after his father, who we know very well. Music, again, towering across the internet, millions of people listening and seeing on YouTube this individual. And so I'm very excited to welcome to the show a wonderful father as well, Mr. Brian McKnight Jr. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Oh, man, thank you so much for that. Really, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
On another level. So happy to be here, y'all.
So, Brian, how are you dealing with the pandemic and everything? Are you in LA? Where are you located?
Yeah, man, I'm in LA, right in North Hollywood. And honestly, for me, man, it's really just been a time of obviously being locked down, but I'm kind of an introvert already, being that I'm usually in my little hub here or at the studio. Yeah. So I've really have just completely just dove headfirst into all my art, man, honestly. And it's really been kind of an accelerant for me as a creator, because I've really been able to have this laser focus and start attacking some of the goals that I had set for myself at the beginning of the year that might not have gotten finished, because I really, this really gave me a light of fire under me that I didn't have, that I know that I needed. So that moving forward into next year, man, I'm just thankful, honestly, that I was one of the fortunate people that could still work for one. And, I really wasn't derailed much by it, other than not being able to see my family, which is the hardest thing, because I'm all about family. And I'm in LA and they're on the East Coast. So that has been probably the hardest part for me, because I'd be home in North Carolina right now with my mom and everybody if it wasn't for this. So, but as an artist, man, I've just kind of have used even all that as motivation and fuel to just get it done, so that when the time comes that we are all back together, I am ready to go and can give all of myself to the people that I've been wanting to for a while now.
All right, Chris, first question for Brian.
Well, sure. Well, no problem. We know, Brian, we've been listening to, these wonderful music. One of the songs is Marry Your Daughter. And I mean, that's such a wonderful, beautiful song. And so tell us a little about that. What was it like growing up in that household with your father being Brian McKnight, and kind of knowing, possibly what was expected of you in the future, and really what now appears to be the love of your heart? What was that like?
No, I always answer this question, man. Growing up with my dad and my mom, honestly, just an incredible experience for someone who believes that they were born to do this. It took a long time, honestly, until maybe last year. I used to question all the time why I was so fortunate, why I was so blessed to be born into a situation like this. And for me, that in itself has become validation, man, that this is exactly what I'm here to do. What I do appreciate my dad for is that he always instilled in me and my younger brother that we could do whatever we wanted, and that we could be the best at it if we applied ourselves. And with that motivation, coupled with the way that my mother was so open with letting us be ourselves and to grow into who we wanted to be as men, I think only allowed us to cultivate our talents in a way that a lot of young kids, especially young Black kids, really didn't, and still maybe don't get a chance to. And for me, I don't take that for granted at all. We grew up constantly in class. You know what I mean? And I was a terrible student in regular school, but in life and in music, I was a sponge to everything. I would literally sit on my father's hip when he was working, or when he was writing, or when he was sitting at the piano. I literally learned how to play piano from just watching my dad's hands for years. And one day he finally told me, just go sit down and play. And I've been playing ever since. And then as a songwriter, having my mom as well as a prolific author, as just an incredible songwriter herself, that couple, literally, I am a perfect product of both of those just lights, you know what I mean? And it was definitely both sides of the equation. My mom being, you know, all positive, all just, you know, a literal angel. And then my dad is my dad, you know what I mean? And I appreciate it so much now that I figure I turned 31 this year. So I've had this accelerated life from 11 to 27 that was just a constant, you know, train of not really knowing what I was getting myself into in any way, but really having a support system and enough life experience to be able to kind of say, okay, I understand now. I see what not to do in this certain particular situation. And I've been able to apply that to my music, to my business, and to now being a father myself and instilling these things into my son. And that in itself, that full circle moment, knowing that I am going to be able to break down even a lot of the generational curses from, you know, my dad, and his dad, has become even the foundation of a lot of the things I do as well. So, you know, it was the best learning experience ever, to give it the Cliff Notes. You know, the best learning experience ever growing up in my house.
It sounds like it's so much. And you
Awesome.
said classes in session. So
Yeah,
how do you
always.
explain that kind of process? You said you were working with your father, but your father always wants you to be a musician. Was that a hope of his?
Well, what's interesting, man, is he really wanted me to go to the NBA. I probably could have done it.
Really?
And yeah, man. I played from 6 to, I mean, really played from maybe, gosh, almost 20 years, to be honest. I was able to play overseas. I was able to play pro-am here and there. Me and my dad were one of the best two-men in the country for a while there. We couldn't be beat. So for him, when I turned 16 and finally came to him and was like, listen, man, I want to do what you do. Like, I've been writing songs since I was 9. I've been producing songs since I was 11. I feel like it should be kind of obvious that this is where I want to go with my life. And we had that butting heads moment. And what I tell my dad all the time was, where he messed up was taking my brother and I on tour with him and allowing me to really experience that next level for just even a manifestation method of going out on stage and getting that energy back from that crowd. And being able to have that happen with my own music. My brother and I would come out and literally kick my dad off stage and perform 2 or 3 of our own songs.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, man, there's still, you know, maybe watching my little one born is probably the only feeling maybe comparable to what that feeling is like, you know. And
how many? 20,000 people?
22,000, I think, was our biggest show.
It's crazy.
And imagine, man, that particular show was in Taipei, Taiwan. And this is people that had no idea who me and my brother were, really. Definitely didn't know any of our songs. But by the end of our second song, to see them singing with us up out of their seats in this soccer stadium, that was the moment for me. I actually have the most epic picture my brother took of me during sound check from that I still look at all the time, just to remind me of where I've been and where I'd like to go. And I'm just sitting at the piano and you just see this huge arena behind me. And it's moments like that. Again, like I told my dad, I was like, man, if you really wanted me to hoop, you should have just sent me to Jordan camp. And that was it. But I appreciate it so much, man.
Put you in front of the audience, forget it. Because
that was it.
Off the crowd. Yeah.
That was it, man. That was a defining moment. My brother and I was 17, so figuring my brother was 14 years old when we started touring. We toured for almost 8 years straight. So in terms of paying our dues and in terms of, really having to learn who we were pretty quick. That's another one of those experiences that I'm so thankful for and definitely don't take for granted at all.
All right, Chris, next question.
Wow. You know, that's very interesting. You know, how Brian says that, you know, this whole learning process, you know, integrating what we see, you know, what we learn from our parents, what they do and what they don't do, and then how we use that in our lives. And one thing I noticed that Brian has done is he has invested a lot in family structure and community. And
Yes,
so,
sir.
Brian, tell us a little bit about that. How important is that, particularly in the Black community,
Yeah.
investing in family and in community?
Man, honestly, I love this question because I don't get asked this question often. But family and community, man, are huge for me because I myself know I grew up quite privileged in many, many ways. And then one of those ways was that I have an incredibly huge family. And especially on my mama's side, every single thing that we do is ingrained in family, taking care of the family, and then extending that love out into the community. My grandfather, the paterfamilias of the family, my mama's daddy, a preacher, one of the most prolific preachers in the South. His brother wrote the hymnal that's in every Seventh-day Adventist or Baptist church. Those songs came from my family. So even that in itself fills me with so much pride, and also gives me, I feel obligated to extend that to my generation because I feel so bad for a lot of my peers that really don't have that, and I'm not even getting into like the fatherhood side, because that's a whole nother, conversation. I feel like even that I would love to begin to touch on. But the one thing my grandfather instilled in me as the firstborn grandson was family must come first, because at the end of the day, I could fall. But if I have that support system that I know I can lean on, that has my back through anything, I can call any one of my uncles right now, which which you don't want me to do because things are gonna get handled. And that for me again just makes me. I just know I'm so blessed to have that
Yes.
in my life as a focal point to now be able to go out and teach and to be able to instill this into who will become my fans, to let them know that, if you take care of home first, everything else you touch is probably going to excel. And then you'll only be able to each one and teach one in that situation. And I think we've seen a breakdown of the family structure for a long time now. And I believe that the bringing music and that kind of teaching together is what's going to kind of bring those family values back to the forefront. And I definitely plan on being a huge pioneer in that area, especially for the Black community, but not only for the Black community, though that I do believe the Black community, especially in these particular areas, are places where people for a long time definitely got a lot of their inspiration from. It seems to me like it's time to bridge that gap even more on a more universal level now. And again, I definitely want to lead those conversations going forward.
Absolutely. Now, Brian, you're acting. You
Incredible.
act as well. So you didn't
Oh
just
yeah,
talk about singing, acting. Explain a little bit of the
definitely.
acting, and I know then Chris wants to get into more of the of your story, but talk about your acting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Acting has definitely been and has become more and more of a passion of mine. I did my first film, Note to Self, back in I think 2016. Shout out to my boy Christian Keys. And that gave me the bug. And then a few summers ago, I was fortunate enough to do my first lead in a comedy with two real buddies of mine back home in North Carolina. That's called Freshman Friday. And it's just a feel good, raunchy comedy that you throw on late night with your friends if you just want to laugh. And it was just so much fun for me. I didn't go to college, so having that 2-week experience where we filmed right on the campus with all of my peers and really got to experience a little bit of that dorm life, that cafeteria life, and just walking around that campus, playing ball with the team, gave me, even more inspiration. It gave me an entirely new palette to write from, and I wouldn't have had that if I wouldn't have gotten into acting. And even with a lot of what I'm going to be putting out next year, I plan on flexing that muscle a lot. And I'm really, really excited about that. My lady and I are writing a few shorts. So yeah, man, it's definitely a field I feel like I've always wanted to get into. It started from wanting to just do soundtracks and score films, but now it's seeming like I would love to direct, write, star in, and score one. So, that's definitely the
Great.
dream.
All right, Chris, next question.
Wow. I mean, just a awesome response. And that's the thing that Brian points out, particularly during this time period, is that, and particularly during Christmas, this is actually a time of celebration for family.
Yeah.
And the extended family, we talk about the Black community, and of course, this is American, so we have multi-ethnic communities across the country. rural areas. And so as a country and as a nation, we are a family, okay?
Yeah.
And our national anthem it means a lot. And I've seen you and Nico and your dad sing that national anthem. And so tell me, it's beautiful. Watching you three sing it. I've seen it before. And, tell me kind of what does that mean to you? You guys sing the national anthem. I mean, the crowds love it.
Man.
Tell me about that.
Those are still some of my favorite moments that I share with my brother and my dad, to be honest, just because we were really able to perform it in places where it really meant something. We did it at NASCAR. I was able to do it for the veterans 2 years in a row now. And it's really one of those times where the time does stop. You can feel the rooms, you can feel that silence, you could hear the people invested in listening to that because they are, this is where we're from, man. And I think this year in particular, filled me with an even more patriotic just vibe, just because it's time, man. It's time for unity. It's time to make those words ring true again, I believe. And it's going to take another level of, coming together that I feel like we're ready for. I feel like, again, if this year showed us anything, it's time for us to kind of let go of all of these petty differences, work through them, but let's get to where we're all working together on the big issues. That's really my hope and my dream, is that, we all finally realize that we're in this together, that we are one, and that we can really get some things done if we can just move past some of these surface level issues that have been plaguing us for a long time. So whenever I'm given the opportunity to specifically sing that song, I truly try my best to put all of my heart and soul in it. So, because I feel like that's what it's deserving of,
Exactly.
So it's definitely, it's something I really, really appreciate the opportunity to do. And I look forward to really doing it a lot more often on much bigger stages next year.
But let's talk, Brian, about
Awesome.
the Christmas album and all the Christmas song and everything coming out.
Man, so we dropped our first Christmas single officially on all platforms this year, Christmas Eve with You. My buddy Brandon Williams produced it, and I had another great friend of mine, Matt Cuson, come and feature on it with me. And it's one of my favorite tunes I feel like I've done, because I'm a Christmas carol. I'm a caroler at heart. I sing Christmas carols all year. And I've always wanted to put my bit in at the shot of having a classic Christmas song that comes around every year, like Mariah Carey's. And I truly believe that by next year, especially when I drop my full Christmas album, we're going to get there, because it's my favorite time of year. Like I said, always, it was my time where I knew for sure I would be with all my families. I'd be seeing all my cousins. And this year, I think, gosh, man, with not being able to do that, it has really made me cherish those memories even more. So though I was really, really glad we were able to get this song out the way that we did. It was pretty quick. We might have a video coming this week. But either way, I'm just so thankful we got that out, and the people are loving it. So I'm so thankful.
That's great. All right, Chris. Again, we heard all the different things. Now, you have one more question for Brian before we have our summary?
I certainly do. And this question, it's a central question, a central theme, actually, of history. And there's time throughout our history and throughout history in general when the prince steps out from the royal family. And sometimes the pressure is just so great, and really they cannot express their natural God-given gifts. That's obviously not the case in your situation. Tell us a little bit about handling that pressure, though. It's always pressure being in the limelight, and tell us about that. How do you handle that kind of pressure?
Man, how personally for me, and I'm usually tight-lipped about saying it, but I really don't feel much pressure. I think the beauty of, and what I appreciate the most about my particular journey and my particular childhood, for one, and then my years that I truly had to grow as a man, I always kind of knew and already had an innate, knowledge of everything it was going to take and all that it was going to entail for me to get there. And it really has taken a lot of the pressure off of knowing, it's always been my goal to step out in the limelight. It's always been my goal to kind of take the reins of the family name and take it to new heights. And having my mom and dad always there, letting me know that I can do that. My dad was constantly telling me, bro, you're already better than me. You really don't,
Oh my gosh.
that, it gave me so much confidence, and not in a conceited way, not in a cocky way, but more so just, I just have so much belief in myself, man. I have so much belief in my brother, in my mama, and everyone that I plan on bringing with me, to where it's really not all on me. I think, just to be honest, I think one of the things I learned from my dad's personal situation was that it was really all on him at that time. So I personally still I can't completely imagine what that pressure must have felt like for him, but I've got an idea. You know what I mean? And hopefully in the future, I will get that opportunity to really talk to my dad and really finally pick his brain to really figure out what he was going through at that time that may have led him to make some of the decisions that he's made, which has allowed me to learn everything almost not to do. So even that in itself, man, has given me so much, again, confidence in knowing that all I have to really do is stay ready. I have to stay ready in practice. I have to stay ready in performance. And again, that really alleviates a lot of the pressure. So what I teach a lot of my mentorees and the young artists that, are coming up, not underneath me, but beside me, is, if you are ready, if you are in that constant state of evolution and in practice, that pressure will fall away, because we really only put that pressure on ourselves. A lot of people believe, and we've been taught for a while, that it comes outwardly. But no, it's usually on us. It comes from wanting to be a perfectionist for one, wanting to be the best, and wanting to impress the people whose opinions matter to us. So when you take all that into account and just make sure that you are constantly the best version of yourself at that moment, you will see the jitters, the nerves, everything kind of flies out of the window.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
and
that's really what I want
to incredible.
Do it and deal with the pressure of your dad and his success, and to try to hopefully develop that to get to that level. Now, Chris, go ahead with summarizing Brian McKnight Jr.
No problem. It's been incredible having Brian McKnight Jr. on the show today. He has stepped forward. He's brought some great principles out that as Americans we need to hear. A lot of it is not what he said, it's what we hear in his voice. Be the best, perfect, family, community, help those who are less fortunate, although we may come from a more fortunate background.
Yes.
So I'm very, very excited, waiting and still watching him, and as he ascends and extends the legacy of this musical royal family that he comes from. What better message could we have during Christmas than what Brian McKnight Jr. has just said? So thank you very much, Brian, for coming on the show today, and we look forward to your success.
Absolutely, Brian.
I appreciate it so much.
This place we can check out. Where can we download the single, the Christmas single, and all that stuff? Where can we go? Where's best?
Man, so I am literally at Brian McKnight Jr. everywhere, across all platforms, and I'm on iTunes, Spotify, everything. And it's all up right now, man. So I'm really excited.
All right, Brian. Thanks for stopping by.
No,
Appreciate
thank you so much.
Merry Christmas to you and your family, and appreciate you stopping
Merry
by.
Christmas, Brian.
Likewise, y'all. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Take care. All right, that was, again, the Dr. Christopher Hall Show, guys. Take care.